Hello, this is Angela from Natural Living Alchemy. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a plant feature on hops. And by the end of this video, you may have just found a new favorite herbal ally. And I'm also going to be sharing with you my favorite way to enjoy hops as a tea. I want to invite you to check the description box below this video, and in there you're going to find a link to the full written blog article that does accompany this video. And I just want to remind you before we get into the bulk of the information that we want to share today that I am not a doctor. Absolutely none of what is on this channel would be considered medical advice. It is here for education and entertainment purposes only. And it is up to you to talk to your healthcare professionals before following anything that I say. So let's talk about hops. Humulus lupulus. Now you may also know her by the common name European hops or just common hops. Now this comes to us from the Cannabaceae family of plants, and the parts used are the flowers. Let's first talk about taste, because there's a lot of information that we can get just by the taste of our plants. So hops is bitter, it's pungent, but it's also slightly sweet. So what are those different flavors telling us? Well, the bitter taste is going to help stimulate the digestive tract as well as the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. The pungent taste means it has an affinity for the cardiovascular system, the digestive system, the respiratory system, and the nervous system. And lastly, that sweet taste. Now, when I say sweet, I mean sweet like carbs, not sweet like sugar. Sweet like a white piece of bread or a bowl of white rice, not sweet like a candy, okay? So the sweet taste, though, what that does is it actually helps to build, nourish, and restore the tissues of the body, okay? But it has a specific affinity for the mucosal membranes of the digestive tract, the respiratory system, and the urinary tract, as well as just being nourishing overall to the fluids of the body. Herbal actions and bodily affinities. So there are a bunch of different herbal actions and places in the body that hops really likes to go. And we're going to start in the nervous system. So hops has a primary action as a nervine sedative and relaxant, helping it to be the top choice remedy for sleep disturbances, such as insomnia, but it can also help moderate tension and anxiety. And this is just telling us that it has a nervous system affinity. But hops also contains a compound called methylbutanol, and that has a sedating effect on the entire central nervous system. The digestive system. Now, hops can be used to treat stress-related digestive symptoms, telling us that it does have that digestive system affinity. So due to the bitter taste, it's telling us that it has an affinity for the liver, helping to stimulate bile secretions as well as clear obstructions from the liver. Hops contains cholagogue properties, helping to promote the flow of bile from the gallbladder, which is then deposited into the upper parts of our small intestine. Hops has some metabolic effects, and it can also help address certain metabolic syndromes like insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. Now, some of the constituents in hops have been shown to have a positive impact on cholesterol levels as well as reducing systemic inflammation. And it also may help reduce body fat in healthy adults. Hops has some analgesic properties, which means that it can just help us address any stress-related aches and pains that we may be experiencing, because it is working through the nervous system to help reduce constriction. Hops has a very specific musculoskeletal affinity. So when we're in a state of tension or constriction, which keep in mind that can show up as physical or emotional manifestations, so hops just might be an herb that you would want to reach for because it is a relaxant and it does have spasmolytic or antispasmodic properties. Hops also has some reproductive system affinities depending on gender. Now, it works as an anaphrodisiac, so that's the opposite of an aphrodisiac. So that would just mean that it actually helps reduce sexual desire and is indicated in abnormal or excessive sexual excitability in all genders. Now, specifically for the male side of things, it can help with nervous irritability. And on the female side of things, it can help support menstruation issues, such as excessively painful cycles or menopausal symptoms. And it does contain some estrogen precursors to it as well. We also have a respiratory system affinity with hops. So when you take it as an extract, it can actually be very beneficial to the heart as well as to the blood vessels in the lungs of both smokers and non-smokers alike. And hops has a skin affinity, and it is considered a mild alterative herb and mild diuretic. And that just means it's going to help clear any heat or dampness from the body. And this could potentially be a treatment for skin irritations and inflammations like eczema and acne. And lastly, hops contains antiviral and antimicrobial properties. Now let's talk about one of the signatures for hops. And what I mean by signatures is this is based off of the theory of the doctrine of signatures. In that description box below this video, I'm going to link 3 different videos that I did exploring the doctrine of signatures in far greater detail. But basically, signature would be sign in nature. What is it that this plant is stamped with that tells us what it does and how we can use it? So for hops, we actually have an animal signature. So it is considered to be a panther medicine. And herbs that are panther medicines actually have a scent to them that is enticing to cats. Now, catnip is one that would fit within this category. So what do panther medicines do? Well, they help relax the smooth muscles. So just for a moment, think of the panther. Think of the smoothness of the movements and just the relaxation that cats in general entice. And this herb definitely embodies those characteristics. The Magickal Correspondences of hops, if that is a way that you do want to or are using herbal medicines and different plant allies, okay? So hops can be used in trance work. And it can also be burned as an incense just to really help you create a specific state of consciousness. And it is suitable for rituals that include offerings. The energetics of hops. It is cooling, it is drying, and it is relaxing. Okay? So that means it's going to cool down heat in the system. Okay, it's going to be drying because remember a few minutes ago when we were talking about some of those digestive system affinities and how it was getting your digestive juices and secretions flowing, those bile from the gallbladder. Well, all of those different secretions eventually do leave the body. So that is how hops has a drying effect, but it is also relaxing. So it would be relaxing as opposed to something that would be like tonifying or like astringent or something that's going to kind of tighten up the tissues. This is going to help relax the tissues. Next, I would like to go over some contraindications or just maybe precautions that you might want to use when you're determining if hops is an herbal ally for you. So first off, it is not recommended for people experiencing significant depression because hops can actually accentuate those symptoms. As with any sedative, sedatives should only be taken for short periods of time because they are not going to get to the bottom of why you might be experiencing insomnia, for example. And prolonged use of sedatives can lead to a habit. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to evoke an addiction, but you definitely can be getting into that habit-forming territory. So just think about it for a second. You could use hops as a bandage, okay, while you figure out maybe why you're experiencing insomnia, but all bandages eventually do need to be changed. I would avoid hops if you were pregnant or breastfeeding, as it does have some effects on the reproductive system, and I do not recommend it in use in children or infants. If you were wanting to use something on a younger child, I would suggest using something like catnip instead of hops. You're going to get those same relaxing effects without the strong sedativeness, yeah, we'll use that word, of what hops can bring you. Common preparations and doses. So there's a couple different ways that we can use and prepare hops. So our first one, and what we're going to be doing in very shortly, I'll share this recipe with you, would be a tea or a hot infusion. So you would start off with 1 heaping teaspoon of hops per 1 cup of water, and you would steep that for a minimum of 10 minutes, going all the way up to 30, 3 times a day. So I would suggest taking it maybe an hour or so before you were wanting to go to bed if you were going to be using hops for that purpose. You could use it in a tincture form. So we would do a ratio of 1 to 5 dried herbs. So that means 1 part dried herb hops, 5 parts alcohol. So you would do in a 40% alcohol, okay? And you would do 1 to 4 milliliters up to 3 times a day. You can take hops in capsule forms, and the usual dosage for that is 500 milligrams per capsule. You could use a fluid extract of hops, and that would be taking about 0.5 to 2 milliliters 3 times a day, as well as right before bed. And you can also use hops as a fermentation. So that is a hot infusion on a cloth or a poultice that you would use on boils, irritated skin, muscle spasm, as well as pain in the lower back. So next I want to share something a little bit different. Now, this is usually something that I would include in our written blog article and some of that information, but I thought we might as well bring this forth into the video, and that is a channeled message from hops itself. Okay, so before I get to sharing what that message is, this isn't something that makes me special. This isn't something that I alone can do. This is actually something that anybody who has a willingness can actually have the capacity to do this. Now, I will also link under this video a video I did with 3 different ways that you can actually start to communicate with plants and get your own messages, which is just something that's fun, and why not? Why not connect with these herbal allies that we share this beautiful planet with, okay? And maybe as I'm starting to connect with the essence of this plant, you're starting to maybe notice, maybe your thought streams are changing. Maybe you're getting a song. Maybe you're getting a feeling, maybe a knowingness, okay? That could be hops trying to communicate something with you. So what I like to do really quickly when I'm trying to connect to get these different messages is I just kind of like to bring it closer into my awareness. If I can start smelling it, breathing it in, start expanding from the heart space out, encompassing the plant in front of you. And what does hops want us to know? Okay, so what I'm getting is hops is wanting to help us to relax so that we can remember the forgotten parts of ourself, about who we are. See, lovely little message. Now, if you happen to get something else while I was doing this connection, and we'll see if it works this way, throw that in the comment box below this video too. I would just love to hear about your connections with these plants. It's one thing for me to know about my connections with them, but it's another to hear about how everyone else is experiencing these magical plants. Okay, so additional notes of something I found interesting about hops when I told you what family of plants hops belongs to, the Cannabaceae family of plants. So that is actually the same family of herbs that the cannabis plant belongs to. So you can think of hops as the cannabis plant's cousin. So that actually does make quite a bit of sense when we are looking at some of the different herbal actions and the different affinities that hops does and the way that it can go in and relax the central nervous system. So hops is ruled by Mars and Venus. I kind of found a bit of a co-ruler there when doing my research, and hops is ruled by the element of the air. Okay, so now it is time to throw a cup of hops tea together. So what I like to do is I've turned my kettle on. Now I like to go for about 80 degrees Fahrenheit for the temperature I like my water to go at, typically for hot infusions and teas. Now, if we are going and waiting until our water is at a rolling boil, what may happen is you could end up disrupting and damaging some of those herbal constituents just because your water was too hot. So I've found that just before it gets to that rolling boil, when it is nice and hot, that 80 degrees Fahrenheit is generally a good temperature to go to. So I like to just use these little mesh strainers when I'm making my teas. I find them a lot easier to clean up than just those little, those smaller little ball strainers that you can get. But however you like to do it is fine. I will say that by using one of these types of strainers, you generally do end up with some herb in the bottom of your cup. That doesn't bug me. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, I guess. But yeah, so if you don't like those little pieces of herb in your cup, I probably wouldn't use this. Use whatever your preferred method is. So now you could just use just plain hops on its own, but I like to add a couple other things to it when I'm using this tea to help me relax at the end of the night. So we're going to start by using 2 teaspoons, because I can fit 2 cups of water in this teacup, 2 teaspoons of our dried hops. And then to that, I like to add, now I'm out of peppermint, I have spearmint this time, but I do generally use peppermint and spearmint interchangeably. I sometimes get a lot of digestive upset, and that is part of the reason why I don't sleep. Adding something like a mint into my tea when I'm wanting to go to sleep is definitely helpful. So I like to just put in 2 teaspoons of that as well. Next, I like to add 2 teaspoons of chamomile flowers. Now, the last ingredient is valerian root. So valerian root is a very, very interesting herb, and we will definitely be doing a plant feature on it in the future, okay? But just know this. So valerian acts differently in different people. So when I take valerian root, I notice that it makes me just like a relaxed, sleepy puddle of Angela. Okay? It's the nicest, best way I can put it. When my son takes valerian root, on the other hand, it has the complete opposite effect on him, and it actually stimulates him and does not help him go to sleep. Okay? So just know how valerian root is going to work for you. Okay? So I like to just add 1 teaspoon in there. But again, you could do whatever combination you wanted of these 4. You could use just straight hops. You could do hops and chamomile, hops in like the spearmint or the peppermint. You could do the hops and the valerian root. But just make sure that how you react to it, and that you have an idea, if you're giving this to somebody, how it might react to them as well. And really the only way of knowing how something is going to react is just by taking it and giving it a try. So all we'll do, our water came to our nice before a rolling boil. Add it to your cup, and then you are just going to allow this to steep for a minimum of 10 minutes. You can go all the way up to the 30 if you like. For something like this, I find generally around that 15 to 20 minute mark is the flavor that I really enjoy. So after it has steeped for the appropriate amount of time, you can add a little bit of honey to taste. And I find a little bit of lemon drop, or like a squeeze of a lemon slice in here, just adds just a nice other layer of just relaxing tea. And there you have it. That is our plant feature on hops. This is our beautiful cup of hops tea we are going to enjoy later. I'm actually just going to warm it back up before it's time to go to bed tonight. But there you have it. Why don't you comment down below and let me know, is hops an ally that you're already working with? Or are you planning on doing so after you've learned about all of these amazing health benefits it holds? Now, if you were curious when we were going over our herbal actions and bodily affinities, what some of those actions actually meant, be sure to come back next week, because I am going to be sharing with you an entire guide that I've made on just different herbal actions, what it means, as well as some different plant examples that fit into each herbal category. And don't forget to hit the like button if you like this video, and maybe share it with anybody else who you think might enjoy it. Consider subscribing to the channel so that we can spend more time together and that you don't miss future videos. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, so be sure to connect with me over there as well. But I just want to say thanks for stopping by today, and I'll see you next time.